gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this course on inferential discrete mathematics. Today we will move ahead and discuss a few topics from the third unit. This unit, according to your syllabus, will cover topics such as recurrence relations, how to evaluate polynomials, how to characterize a recurrence relation based on order and nature, how to solve a recurrence relation using two different methods, one by determining its equation and the other by generating functions. Moving ahead, this is the short introduction of what we will be discussing here. Recurrence relations is the major topic of discussion, but before we move into that, we will look at polynomials and their telescopic evaluations, how sequences and recurrence relations are connected, how do we classify recurrence relations, and then how do we solve them. Today's class we will start with polynomials. The concept of a polynomial is pretty elementary. You might have learned it in classes 7, 8 and 9. I can formally define a polynomial as given on the screen. Let n be any non-negative integer, and an nth degree polynomial in x is an expression of a particular form where an minus 1, etc., a1 and a0 are constants which we call as set of coefficients. And when we say that the given polynomial is of degree n, then this coefficient an is necessarily non-zero. Now, an example for a polynomial can be given like the one on your screens now. F of n is 4 times n to the power of 3 plus 2 times n to n squared minus 8n plus 9. And the evaluation of a polynomial will imply that we are finding the value of f of n for a particular number n. So, when we replace n by 7, we have 4 times 7 cube, 2 times 7 square, 8 times 7 and 9. We add all these and we get an answer. So, evaluating a polynomial means that we find the value of the corresponding polynomial for some instance. Here we have used the value of n as 7. You can also try your own values. Now, each of these is what we call as an evaluation. In particular, we look at one method of evaluation called as the telescopic evaluation. Now, the method that is explained on the screen is known to most of you. It is direct substitution and solving for, finding the value of f of n. But any polynomial can also be evaluated telescopically, in the sense that we will not exactly find higher powers, but we will decompose the polynomial into simpler terms. Understanding this requires knowledge of these two basic steps. We will run through them on the screens now. Let S be a set of coefficients and x denote a variable. Then any polynomial in x can be evaluated telescopically in terms of two steps. Now, what are they? Step 1 is the basis on which we evaluate all this. A 0th degree polynomial expression in x over S is a non-zero element of S. So, when you talk about a 0th degree polynomial, it is just a constant, only a number. And for all n greater than 1, an nth degree polynomial over S is an expression of the form p of x plus x, p of x times x. You see here, it is p of x times x, where p of x is an n minus first degree polynomial expression wherever a belongs to S. Now, you will have more clarity about this when we have a look at a couple of examples. This is the first one. Now, on your screens, I have evaluated a third degree polynomial by using the method of telescopic evaluation. And how is that done? Look at the polynomial. It's a very simple cubic polynomial. We have 4n raised to 3, 2n raised to 2, 8n and 9. We have 4 terms in this expression, and now we are going to try and break this down into simpler terms where every term has only a power of 1. And how is that done? You have 4n plus 2. So the very first term, which was actually a 4n power 3, is written as a 4n plus 2. So you are writing the second term as a 0th degree polynomial. So 2n square is written only as 2, and 4n cube is written as 4 times n to the power of 1. Now when both of these are multiplied gradually by powers of n, so you have 4n plus 2 with n, and then you reduce 8, and then once again you multiply with n, and at the last you add the constant. This is what you mean when you decompose the polynomial into simpler terms. I will show that why this works. I will show you the explanation as to why this actually works. Now let us move backward from the answer that we have here. So this is actually 4n square plus 2n. That is what you get when you simplify the first expression. You have a minus 8 and you have an n outside. So this will mean you have 4n to the power of 3 plus 2n squared minus 8n, and there are no n terms here, so that will just be 9. So we have got back the polynomial we started with, but in doing so we have broken the polynomial down into simpler terms. This is what you call as a telescopic evaluation. So you don't have to find higher powers of n this time around. You can directly substitute, get the answer, do simpler multiplications, manipulate your calculation by subtracting or adding, and then get the answer. To compare, if you look at the previous slide where we evaluated f of 7, you can observe that we found the third power of 7, 7 cube, the second power of 7 is in 7 squared, and then you multiplied all these using the coefficients, and then you found the answer to be 1423. But the same can be done by skipping all the calculations which involved higher powers. That is where telescopic polynomials can be of greater use. How to do that? Now once you have this answer, you can easily determine what f of 7 is. We are going to do the same here. We will just replace n by 7 as we did in the previous example, but this time around the evaluation will happen telescopically, as in we will simplify and find resultant numbers as and when possible. Now to do this, we will have two brackets here. First bracket will involve 4 times 7 plus 2, and that we are multiplying by 7, minus an 8, and then once again by 7 and a 9. So this will lead us to the result where 4 times 7 is 28 plus 2 is 30, 30 times 7 is 210 minus 8, and that you are multiplying by 7 and you are adding 9. So 210 minus 8 is going to be 202, and that you are multiplying by 7, which means you will get a number which is 1414. You are adding 9, you will directly get 1423. Now if you recall, this is the exact answer that we got a couple of slides back. When we substituted the value of n as 7, determined higher powers of 7, namely power to the power of 3 to the power of 2, etc., and then you did a whole lot of simplification. This time around, when you evaluate the polynomial telescopically, the maximum you will do is addition and subtraction with multiplication, which will be only covering 2 terms. So the task of finding the product is easier when you do it using the telescopic evaluation method. That is why this is recommended whenever you are evaluating a polynomial and substituting and getting a resultant answer. Let us try and have a look at a couple of examples for this. First one, I have given you a biquadratic polynomial, a polynomial in x where the highest power of x is 4. So, you have a x power 4 term, an x cube term, an x square term, an x term and a constant term. So, all these 5 terms involved. We are going to evaluate it. We are not going to find what is p of 7 or p of 9, but we will just try and simplify, or in other words decompose this polynomial into simpler terms. Now, how do we do this? Recall what we did in the previous slide. You will break it down into simpler expressions where the highest power is only 1. We will not deal with any higher power. That is what we will do here. So, the first step is to write this down as 5x plus 12. The 12x cube that we had has become a 12. The x power 4 has now only become an x. But we did not have this in the question, we had x power 4. So, we will multiply the sum by an x. So, when you do this, this is actually taking care of 5x square and 12x. But that is not what we have. We have 5x power 4. So, you will have to introduce another x somewhere, and for that we will look at the coefficient of x square. The coefficient of x square is 6, and that is a negative 6. So, we will have that introduced in this manner. Now, this is going to give us 5x cube plus 12x square minus 6x. So, we have all the terms in the required order, but still we do not have the powers as given in the expression. So, to do that last part, we will consider the last term that we had. The last term that we had, which was a power of x, is x, just x. So, we will write that down as 5x plus 12 minus 6 times x plus 1, and you have an x outside. Now, this will give us 5 times x, that is an x cube, that is an x square, another x outside, that is an x cube, and one more x outside, that is going to give us 5x to the power of 4 plus 12. This gives you x power 1, this gives you x power 2, and this is going to give you x power 3. 12x cube minus 6 and x will give you 6x, and you have another x outside, that is going to give you 6x square, plus there is only one term which goes with x, so you will just get an x back, and whatever the constant that is missing, you will just add it. So, this final expression when added with 6 will actually give us the reduction of the given polynomial telescopically. So, you will have, I am writing down the answer, 5x and 12 added multiplied with x minus 6 subtracted, the result is multiplied with x, 1 is added and the sum is multiplied with x, and there you have finally 6 added. So, this actually gives us the telescopic form of the given polynomial, and evaluating this is far easier than directly substituting the value of n. So, that is the answer we were looking for, and that is the answer we have. We will take a look at one more exercise for you to get used to this idea of reducing the polynomial. What we have next is a polynomial of the highest power being 5. It is not 4, it is 5, which means the polynomial should always have 6 terms, because 1 for x power 5, 1 for x power 4, 1 for x power 3, 1 for x squared, 1 for x power 1, and the constant term. So, you are supposed to have 6 terms, but what you have is only 5 terms, which means there is some term that is missing. In fact, if you pay careful attention, you will see that there is a missing term here. You have a 0x square which is not part of this polynomial. So, you have actually an x square term whose coefficient is 0. So, when you have 0 as the coefficient, it is as good as not having that term with you. So 0 is not present, which means x square is not present. So hence you have only 5 terms in the polynomial. So let's try and reduce this. This will follow the same approach that we did for the previous polynomial. The only difference being we have to account for that x square term which is missing. So to do that, I'll first start with an x plus 3. If I begin with an x plus 3, that takes care of these two terms. X power 5 as a coefficient as 1, so it is 1x. X power 4 is a coefficient of 3, so it is just 3. But to increase the powers step by step gradually, you will multiply them with an x outside. First step, you're going to end up with only x square plus 3x. But that's not what we have. We have an x power 5, an x power 4 and an x cube. So to accommodate the x cube, I'll proceed with my next step. I'll look for the coefficient of x cube, which is actually 15. So we'll subtract that since it is a minus 15, and I'll have this multiplied by an x. So you have x plus 3x minus 15 and you have an x outside. Now if you have a look at what's happening, x and x and x will give you x cube, 3x and x will give you 3x square, 15 will give you 15x. That's not what we have. We have to account for a 0x square and a 1x. You have to account for both these terms, which is why we will proceed once more to the next stage of this decomposition. X plus 3 and x minus 15 and x. But what you have is a 0x square. So you can just write 0 and introduce one more x outside. Now since this is a 0 term, your x here will have an impact only on the 3 terms which are already there, the 3 terms which we found in the previous step. It will not add to this term, and therefore your x square will still remain at 0. So what do we gain out of this? You gain an x, x, x and an x. So that's an x power 4, 3x, 3x square and 3x cube plus 3x cube minus 15x and x, that's a 15x square plus 0x. But that's not what we started with. We started with an x power 5. So to account for one more power of x, and that we'll do by introducing a 1. Why a 1 here? Because the coefficient of the x power 1 term is just 1. So now you will just have to multiply every term in the previous step by x. So you will get an x power 5, you will get an x power 4, you will get a 15x cube, you won't get an x square because it's 0x square, and now you will also get a 1x. And now what is missing? What is missing is just the constant. So you can just subtract the 10 and get the required answer. So we have once again reduced a given polynomial into simpler terms. So the answer we are looking for is this: x plus 3 times x minus 15 times x, and x again plus 1 and an x outside, you are subtracting the 10. So we have reduced this polynomial also, and you have made it easy to evaluate this polynomial. We have ended up with the telescopic simplified form of the given polynomial. Let's try one last example before we go into sequences. Once again you have this term, the highest power is 5, so it's a degree 5 polynomial, which implies we got to have 6 terms over here. We don't have them, we have only 4. You can easily find out that there is a 0x cube, an x cube term is missing, and a 0. There is no constant term involved. So both the x cube and the constant term are missing. We can take care of them by simplifying. And how do you do that? You write it as minus x plus 3. The first term appears as it is, but as we are building up the polynomial, you will write it as minus x plus 3 times x. That will end up giving us an x square and a 3x. Now we don't want just this, we also want an x square. So what you do is you increase all powers by one number simultaneously by adding plus 2 to this already simplified version. Why plus 2? Because plus 2 is what we have before x square. So this will end up with an answer. Now we need a 0, right? We also have a 0. We don't have an x cube, so we'll need to add, beg your pardon for that. So we'll need to add an x without any coefficient, so it is just 0x there. So we'll have an x cube, you'll have a 3x square. You will not have an x because you do not have an x cube in the given polynomial. And in the last term, last but one term, plus 0 times x plus 2, and all of it is multiplied once again by x. So what are we having over here? Minus x times x times x times x minus x power 4 plus 3 times x times x times x, that's going to be 3x cube, 0 times x, that's a 0x square, and a 2x. So what we are missing is the term with 1x as its expansion. So you will have to accommodate that. That is pretty easy by now to most of you. You can easily take care of that part. So now you will end up with a minus x power 5 plus 3x power 4 plus a 0x cube, a 2x square, and a 1x. What is missing is the constant. You don't have to worry. You don't have to add a 0 to get a 0. 0 is always part of your polynomial. So the answer you are looking for is just this: minus x plus 3 upon x again plus 2x plus 1x. That's the simplified form of your given polynomial. Now with that introduction, you are ready to take on the primary topic of discussion in today's class, a sequence. Because later in the class we learn what are recurrence relations and how are they connected with this concept called sequence. So first up, I'll define a proper sequence, give you a couple of examples, and make you familiar with the idea. A sequence is a function from the set of all natural numbers into some predetermined set. The image of any natural number k can be written as s of k or sk. This is important. There are two ways to denote a sequence. You can denote a sequence. Any term of the sequence can be written like this. This represents the first term of the sequence, or this also represents the first term. So it is either s of 1 or s subscript 1. Both of them are common standard notations for this idea called a sequence. So when I write s of k or s subscript k, I am in fact referring to the kth term in the definition of the sequence. Now you know how a sequence looks like. You will have numbers separated by commas, and there is always a pattern, a rule that determines what number comes next. So there is always a common pattern which will help us guess what number can turn up next in a given sequence. So that's the general introduction to the idea. It's a function from the set of all natural numbers. Natural numbers begin at 1, 1, 2, 3, etc. Whole numbers begin at 0. So I map the set of all natural numbers to the set of all numbers which are even. So 1 goes to 2, 2 goes to 4, 3 goes to 6, 4 goes to 8, etc. That will form a sequence 2, 4, 6, 8. Now you will obviously know that this is actually a sequence. It's the sequence of all even integers. Now since you have identified a pattern, the next term in the sequence can be guessed easily. The pattern is very simple. The next term has got to be 10 because that's the next even integer in your scheme of things. So that is what you mean by a sequence. It's a function from the set of all natural numbers to some predetermined set. In our example, that set happens to be the set of all even integers. We can have a look at a couple of examples now, because I told you that there are many ways of defining a sequence. The first way, the most usually followed way, is to give the direct definition. I say a of k is k square minus k as long as k is non-negative. What do I mean by this? By this, I am defining every term of the sequence. You want the fifth term, I'll just use 5 in the place of k. I'll say the fifth term is 25 minus 5, which is 20. You want the 10th term, I'll just use 10 in the place of k. The term is going to be 10 squared minus 10, which is 100 minus 10, which is 90. The definition says that this rule can be followed as long as n is non-negative. You can even do it for 0. A0 is going to be 0 minus 0, which is 0 again. A1 is going to be 1 minus 1, which is 0 again. So this definition is restricted for all indices representing the terms of the sequence as long as the indices are non-negative. But there is also another equivalent way to define a sequence, and this is what we'll be focusing by and large in this first class. We can also define a sequence in the form of a recurrence relation. Now look at your screens. B of k is b of k minus 1 plus 3. So the definition says I must add 3 to the previous term. That's all it says. And that is enough for us to define the exact sequence. So the question clearly tells you that b of k is b of k minus 1. That is the notation that stands for the immediate previous term. So the definition wants you to keep adding the constant 3 to generate your sequence. Now we know that b of 0 is 2. So b of 1 is easy to generate. B of 1 is going to be b of 1 minus 1, that's b of 0 plus 3. So we began with 2, now 2 becomes 5. Now b of 2 becomes the previous term plus the constant 3. So b of 2 is going to be 5 and 3 put together, that's 8. And b of 3 is going to be 8 and 3 put together, that's 11. So a sequence can also be represented in the form of a recurrence relation. We'll quickly get to what you mean by a recurrence relation, but as of now I just want you to understand that there are two different methods. One method which gives you the formula for any particular term of the sequence. We saw that in the previous slide. I just do k square minus k to get the kth term. So if you give me the value of k as 15, it's going to be 15 squared minus 15. If k is 20, it's 20 squared minus 20. So any term on the sequence can be easily determined by using this formula. That's one way. The other way is to define a sequence using a comfortable recurrence relation. Now we'll go into the definition shortly, but this is what you can call as a general idea behind a recurrence relation. S of k, the question says, is S of k minus 1 plus 3. So it just says that. That's enough for us to define the sequence. Now this sequence that you have picked up will be like this. It will start with 2 because a naught is 2, 2 comma 5 comma 8 comma 11. You can see that this is actually an arithmetic progression, an arithmetic sequence with the difference between any two terms remains a constant. 5 minus 2 gives you 3, 8 minus 5 gives you 3, 11 minus 8 gives you 3. This keeps on happening. So this is how you define a sequence. Now we'll try a couple of examples, and for each of these I want you to find out a naught is already given. I want you to determine the first 4 terms, the other first 4 terms of the given sequence. I want you to know the answers for A1, A2, A3 and A4. Now look at A1. From the definition, A1 is 6 times A naught. So A1 is 6 times A naught, and A naught is 2. 6 times 2 gives us 12. A2 is 6 times A1, which is 6 times the previous answer, that's 6 times 12, which is 72. A3 is going to be 6 times A2, and A2 is 72, that is 6 times 72, which happens to be 432. A4 is going to be 6 times this 3-digit number, 6 times 432 is going to be 12, 9, 25. That's 2592. So there we have the other 4 terms of the sequence defined using the given equation. And this is an exercise for you to try. An is the square of the previous term. So if A1 is 2, A2 is going to be square of A1. That's 2 times the square of 2, which is 2 times 8, which gives us 16 as the answer. So the second term of this, no, it just says A1 squared, so you don't have to multiply the 2. So it is just 2 square, and 2 square is going to give us only 4. So A1 is 4. So what about A2? A2 is going to be, no, A2 is 4, in fact A2 is 4. A3 is going to be square of the previous term, square of A2. You know that A2 is 4, so this is going to be square of 4, which is 16. A4 is going to be square of A3, which is going to be square of 16, and that's 256. So A1, A2, A3 and A4 are available for us just by using the given definition. Let's try a different sequence. Well, the definition goes on like this. An is An minus 1 plus 3 times An minus 2. So to get a term, you'll have to add the immediate previous term to the term which is at n minus 2 index after multiplication with 3. So we know A naught is 1, we know A1 is 2. Let's try A2 is A1 plus 3 A naught. A1 is 2 plus 3 A naught is 1. So 2 plus 3 times 1 is going to be 5. A3 is A2 plus 3 A1. So you reduce 1 the first term, you reduce 2 the second term. That's going to be 5 plus 3 times A1. A1 is 2. So 5 plus 6, that's 11. And A4 is A3, 1 removed from 4. And now 2 removed from 4, which is 3 A2. A3 plus 3 A2. And A3 you know it to be 11. A2 you know it to be 5. That's 3 times 5, which is a 15 plus 11, which is 26. And last A5 is A4 plus 3A3. A4 plus 3A3. A4 we already know to be 26. 3A3 we know it to be 11. So 26 plus 33 is going to be 59. So our sequence is 2, 5, 11, 26, 59. That's the sequence. We will now proceed to the next example. We will find 4 terms of the sequence. We will start with A2. A2 is going to be 2 times A1 plus 4 times A0, which is 2 times A1 is 1, so 2 times 1 plus 4 times 1, which is exactly 6. A3 is going to be A3 is going to be 3 times A2 plus 9 times A1, which is A2 is 6, so that's 3 times 6 plus 9 times 1, which is 18 plus 9, that gives us 27. Similarly, A4. A4 is going to be 4 times A3 4 times A3 plus 16 times A2, which is 4 times 27 plus 16 times 6, that is 108 plus 96, that is 204. So we have found out A2, A3 and A4 for the sequence.